Hello YouTube, this is a video for those of you who are considering building a home. If you are building a home, there's some things you should do that are much easier to do in the construction phase of building a home than they are later. So if you're considering building a new home, then it's well worth the effort and extra expense to do a few things to make your home healthy and more energy efficient and safer for your family. And preventing radon from getting your home is one of those things that you should do. So there's, besides radon, there's other things you can do as well. Like one of the things you should do when you build a home is do a good job with the insulation and sealing up all the air leaks so that your home is very energy efficient. So that's much easier to do when your home is under construction, is to have good insulation and also have enough electrical outlets and lighting everywhere. Doing things like that are much more simple to do when your home is under construction than when your home is already built. And so I just want to talk about radon. And radon is a poisonous gas radon is a radioactive gas that's a decay product of uranium. There's natural uranium found all over the United States and the world in the soil naturally underneath the homes that we build. And this radon the radioactive decay of uranium into radon then becomes a gas that leaks into our homes and causes lung cancer. And there's been thousands and thousands of documented cases of lung cancer due to radon. And radon is the leading cause of lung cancer after smoking. Smoking is the leading cause of lung cancer, but radon is the second leading cause of lung cancer. And so thousands of people die every year because of radon causing lung cancer. My wife's boss, who she worked for several years, he died in his 50s from lung cancer, and he never smoked a day in his life, and likely due to radon. But I'm not sure about his case specifically, but radon is a significant problem that causes a lot of disease. And so it's something worth thinking about when you're building a home. And there's lots of things you can do to prevent radon from getting in your home. And before I go into that, I just want to show you that I am having to fix my home by putting in a radon reduction system and a radon fan. And the radon fan you have to run 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You have to keep that radon fan running constantly, and it uses quite a bit of electricity. And a weak fan that barely pulls any energy only costs about $231 over 10 years, or maybe $20 per year, which is not that expensive. It's only $20 to $25 per year to run that fan. And a really small fan like that can work on a home that was built in a way that reduces radon. If your home was not built very well to reduce radon, then you might have to run a really strong fan. And the strongest fans that use the most electricity cost you about $6,600 over 10 years to run that fan, or about $600 to $700 per year to run that most powerful fan. Now there's lots of fans in between, so it could end up costing you anywhere between $200 and $6,600 per 10 years to run a radon fan, just in the cost of electricity to run the fan. There's also other costs associated with having to install a radon reduction system later. So the average cost of installing a radon reduction system in a home right now, I think, is around $1,500 to $2,000 to pay a contractor to do it. So there's that cost of installing the system, and then there's also the ongoing electrical costs of doing it. So for minimal cost when you build the house, you can prevent the radon from getting in the first place. And there's lots of information online. This is an EPA website where they talk about things you can do when you build your home to have radon resistant construction techniques. And one of the first things they mention is to put gravel underneath. The gravel allows airflow so that there's a permeable gas layer so that the radon can flow and get to a pipe. The other thing you do is you put plastic sheeting or vapor barrier. So you place heavy duty plastic on top of the gravel, but underneath the concrete. So before they pour the foundation slab, so they pour the walls of your basement, or if you don't have a basement, they're just going to pour a slab that your home sits on. But before they pour the slab, what you do is you put gravel down, and then you put a plastic sheet. And the plastic sheet, what it does is it blocks the flow of radon, because radon can actually seep through concrete. Concrete is fairly porous, and concrete always ends up cracking, and so you end up with cracks, and you end up with areas of air, places that the radon gas can seep through the concrete and get into the home. Now, if you put the plastic sheeting down it will block most of that radon from getting in the house in the first place. And then you usually don't even have to run a fan. So not even having to have a fan is a huge benefit, because then you don't have to pay that $200 to $6,000 per 10 years to run your fan. And so if you have the plastic sheet and the gravel, that makes a huge difference, even just those two steps alone. And plastic sheeting is not that expensive. Before you build your home, if you tell your cement contractor who builds your home, or your general contractor, say, hey, I want you to put plastic sheeting down, I want you to put the gravel down and then put plastic sheeting down. If you only did that alone, that wouldn't cost you hardly anything to do that. Maybe an extra $50 when you're building your house, or to buy the plastic sheeting that goes underneath, and maybe an extra $50-$100 to install it. So you're looking at maybe $150 to prevent radon from getting in your house in the first place, and potentially saving your family from lung cancer and not having to pay thousands of dollars per 10 years to run the fan. So that is a huge step alone. Another thing you can do is put a vent pipe. So when I'm doing my radon remediation work right now, I'm installing a vent pipe that's very difficult to install in an existing home. But if you put the pipe in when the home is being built, it's really not that difficult. It's pretty simple to do. And that I don't know how much that will cost you to do, but maybe the parts and labor cost you $400 or $500, but that's going to be rolled into your building loan or your mortgage. So you're not even going to notice $500 difference. If you're building a home that's going to cost you $500,000 and you roll an extra $500 into that mortgage, you're not going to notice a difference in your monthly payment at all. So at the time you build the house, there's really no reason not to put the plastic sheeting and the vent pipe in when you build the home. So you already have the vent pipe ready to go. And I'd strongly recommend you use 4-inch. He says you can run a 3-inch or 4-inch solid PVC Schedule 40 pipe, but I strongly recommend 4-inch. Most of the radon reduction fans work better on 4-inch pipe. It's a bigger pipe, it's a little more expensive, but again, if you are paying an extra $20 that's rolled into a $500,000 mortgage, there's no reason not to do 4-inch pipe. So use solid Schedule 40 4-inch PVC pipe. You put that into, it goes down underneath the foundation, and so it sits underneath so you're going to put the gravel, the plastic sheet, but then the radon vent pipe is going to sit underneath that plastic sheet, and then it's going to allow that radon to vent out above your roof. So you can see you got the gravel, you've got the vent pipe, and then the vent pipe goes up and goes out the roof. So it looks just like there's plumbing vents. Every single home that's built has little plumbing vents, and it looks just like another plumbing vent that sits above. Maybe it's white instead of black, or you can paint it black too if you want. So it doesn't have to look ugly. It doesn't have to be a problem. It's really simple to install when you're building the home. Just demand that your builder, when they build the home, put in a vent pipe that's 4-inch Schedule 40 PVC pipe, and that it goes down below the foundation and it goes into the gravel, and there should be a little airspace. There'll be a little airspace in the gravel, and then you caulk between the foundation and the vent pipe, so there's no air leakage that gets into the home from underneath the house. So you really don't want any air leaking between the foundation and the house. And so another thing that you should consider is, before you finish a basement, is you caulk all the cracks in the foundation. There's usually going to be cracks in the foundation. You want to caulk any of those gaps or cracks in the foundation so that you don't get any leakage of radon into your home. That will be a further barrier to prevent radon, in addition to the plastic sheet that you'll put down. So you got gravel, plastic sheeting, a vent pipe, and then sealing and caulking. Sealing and caulking can be done after a home is built if you haven't finished your basement yet. If you don't have carpet on your basement yet, or you haven't finished the basement, then I strongly urge you to spend the time to caulk and seal the cracks in your foundation. You can do this yourself. I did it on a basement yesterday in the basement of my dental office. There's lots of caulk available out there. You can get self-leveling caulk that seeps in there, and then you can put silicone caulk on top of it. This article recommends polyurethane caulk to prevent radon and other soil gases from entering the home. So caulking and sealing up any little cracks in the foundation walls or the foundation floor, or between the foundation wall and floor, is really important to preventing radon from getting in your home. But it also helps if you ever install a vent pipe. It helps so the suction works better with the vent fan, so you can use a smaller fan instead of an expensive fan. And then this says put a junction box or an electrical box up in the attic so that you can plug in a radon fan later on if you have to put a fan in. But if you do these things, if you put in the gravel, the plastic sheeting, the vent pipe, and you caulk and seal every little crack in the foundation and between the foundation walls and floor, then more than likely your radon levels are going to be quite low. Even if you live in an area where there's high radon, if you do those steps of the plastic sheeting and the vent pipe and the caulking, then you probably won't even have to buy a radon fan. And you can just have what's called a passive radon system, where if you look up here, they have just the gravel, they have the plastic sheeting, they have the vent pipe where the radon can kind of seep through the gravel, get into the vent pipe, and then go out the roof so that it doesn't get into your home. And notice they don't have a fan in, but they did put a junction box with electrical so that later they can add the fan if they need to. If they discover after the home is built that the radon levels are high, then they can easily put the fan in. The problem is when you build a house is you can't test for radon until after the home is already finished, because the radon builds up inside an enclosed structure. You can't test for radon levels just when you're buying an empty lot, for example, where you're going to build a home. You don't know. You can look at maps and see where there's high radon levels, but you really don't know how much radon is going to be in your house until you have built the home, and then you can test it afterwards. So that's why it's really critical to do these inexpensive and easy to do steps. They're easy to do when you're building the home, much more difficult to put this in after the home is already built, and I'm experiencing that right now. I've spent hours and hours and weeks of my time planning and building a radon reduction system in a home that's already built. It's very difficult to install and tricky. But if you do it when the home is being built, then it's much more simple, much less expensive. You roll the cost of doing it into your mortgage so you don't even notice the extra expense, and it's very minimal, and you prevent radon from getting in the first place. And then you don't have the ongoing cost of the electricity. Now, let's say you build your home in a perfect way that radon doesn't get in, but you still have a slightly elevated radon levels. Despite all your efforts, you still have let's say you live in an area where there's really high radon in the soil and it still gets in your home somehow, and you're still having somewhat high levels of radiation or radon in your home. So what you do is you can activate a passive system by installing a fan up in the attic. You put a fan in the attic, you attach it into the vent pipe, and that's super easy to do you don't have to put the pipe through the walls. All you have to do is cut the pipe, put in a fan, attach it to the electrical, and then it sucks out the air. And that's minimally expensive to do, and it's easy. And in the case like this, if you built your house in a way that's got plastic barrier and gravel and the vent pipe's already there, then what you can do is you can usually get away with the least expensive fans. Like these fans that only cost you $20 per year in electricity to run are usually going to be adequate in a home that was designed and built with radon prevention in mind. If you already had the plastic sheeting down and all that, then most of the time you can get away with a weak fan that doesn't cost you that much in electricity, and the cost of the fan itself is much less as well. But if you have an older home, if you didn't have the opportunity to build your home in a way that prevents radon, then you usually have to end up buying a stronger fan that costs you quite a bit more in electricity. So I'm just making this video to advocate for anyone who's building a home to build it in a way that makes it so you can get rid of radon in the first place, or makes it so you never have radon as a problem in the first place. It really doesn't cost you that much more. I'm surprised they don't have it in the building code that they require that you do these steps. They should. I think they should do that, because it doesn't cost you that much more in the building process to do it, and it basically pays for itself so that you don't have to run a radon fan. And also, if you get lung cancer, that's also expensive from a financial point of view, and not very fun to have lung cancer. So even if you're only looking at things from a financial standpoint, building your home in a way that prevents radon from getting in is well worth the cost and the effort to do it. There's a lot more information online. There's the EPA has websites and information about, there's a PDF document here that says building out radon. There's lots and lots and lots of information about how to build a home in a way that prevents radon. It's kind of the basics I already talked about. Your levels might be different than your neighbors. Here's a map of different radon levels. Some places don't get it that much. But I strongly suggest, if you live in an area that is slightly prone to getting radon, I strongly urge you to build your home in a way that prevents radon from getting in your home in the first place. It's much easier to do it in the building phase. So thanks for watching. Here's another look at the map, if it will focus for me there. There we go. So here's another look at the map. So look, there's these darker areas, and even these lighter areas are huge swaths of the country where there's lots of radon. So some of these lighter areas might not be a problem. But even in these areas, like I live in Utah, in this area where it's not shaded dark, and there's still high levels of radon in a lot of homes along the Wasatch Front in Utah where I live. So even in these areas where they're not darkly shaded, there might be high radon levels, and so it's well worth building your home in a way that prevents radon. If you live down in these areas where there's almost no radon, then maybe not as much of a concern, but even there, it might be worth it. So it also helps with energy efficiency and things like that to have your basement sealed off really well. So thanks again.